Hello there. I am Najma Smalls, and I am delighted to have this conversation with you today as we talk about mother wounds and healing from mama trauma. Before we get started, I want to give you a few housekeeping items. The first thing is if this conversation becomes overwhelming for you, if you feel if you start to feel overly anxious, if you begin to feel depressed, if you have suicidal thoughts of any type, okay, I want you to see a therapist. If you do not have a therapist, email me, contact me immediately, and I will point you to a great therapist that will work with you and get you what you need, okay? Secondly, this conversation is only going to work if you are 100% honest with yourself, right? I need you to be honest with yourself about your feelings, about your experiences. It's just you and I here, right? And I've created this space for you so that we can really together explore some of our behaviors and how we arrived at these behaviors so that we can move forward and being better, okay? With that being said, let's dig right into it. So, in mother wounds, let's talk about how we get mother wounds. How do these things occur, right? So, as we are in our early and adolescent development, our brain is making connections based on our experiences. And those experiences determine how we are wired. And they determine how we are showing up and how we are doing life as in adulthood. So as they always say, how your mom loved us determines how we love, right? How moms love us determine how we love, how we show up, and how we send and receive love, okay? It also determines how we relate to others in every area of our life, professionally, uh, in terms of how we relate to our leadership and how we relate to our romantic partners and our friendships as well, okay? Our mother wounds go with us everywhere if they are not healed. They skew our views and our perspectives on life. So, this is why it's so important for us to take this deep dive and understand who we are and how we got to where we are. Okay. What does it look like? What does it look like when someone has mother wounds that have not healed? Well, one area is you might notice that you may have what's called rejection dominance. Okay. That's when you become very sensitive to feeling rejected and being rejected, right? It hurts your feelings if you don't get invited to the party. And it may hurt your feelings more deeply than the other one or other people around you. You may notice it much more quicker when someone rejects you. You find yourself often saying, she doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. He didn't invite me to this. He unfriended me. She unfriended me. And it bothers you. Okay. And this is why I say it's important to be honest, right? If it bothers you, if you're bothered by these things, let's acknowledge it. Okay. Let's acknowledge it so we can deal with it, right? So that's a little bit about rejection dominance. Okay. You may find that you are more overly sensitive in general. People may tell you you're sensitive and so on. We're going to really explore why that is. Okay. You may find that you're often searching for love. You're looking for love. You always feel as though you're never full, if that makes sense, because you're often searching for the love that mom didn't give you, right? Our mothers are our first to love us, okay? They are the first beings to show us love. And when that isn't there, when that isn't filling us up or that hasn't filled us up, we're constantly looking for that. No one on this planet can replace that first love. Okay. No one can take us back in time and hold us and rock us to sleep and sing to us and so on. And so that's missing. And so even as an adult, I've met adults 40, 50, 60, whatever, whatever. And because they didn't have that filling up from mom, they're still impacted by it. They're still searching for the love from a mom, in a sense, okay? And if you may find, if you are suffering from mom wounds, it's easy to disappoint you, right? You're easily disappointed, okay? And that's because you haven't made peace with the disappointments of your mom, right? So it irritates you. It really gets under your skin when someone disappoints you, particularly if they you've put them kind of on a pedestal, so to speak, in your mind, right? And that's another one as well. Sometimes you tend to put certain people on pedestals, and you can even it can even feel like maybe when you look back as if you idolize that person. Okay, you become a little more clingier in your relationships, and that's when we're getting into attachment issues. A lot of this is dealing with attachment issues as well, how we form attachments. But here's the thing, when you cling to that person, right? When you make them that idol, when they disappoint you, you're deeply hurt. Okay. You are deeply hurt because they were on this pedestal in front of you. And sometimes those hurts, let me tell you, subconsciously, you are comparing those hurts to the hurts of your mom. You may not be doing it in real time, right? But those hurts are bringing back some of that childhood wound, that child, that little you that's still inside of you that has not healed. That little girl in there that is still crying out for mommy to hold me, mommy to hug me. She is still in there. And when that wound is provoked, right? It hurts. It deeply hurts. And then do you feel like sometimes drama just follows you? It just feels like drama just follows you. You're always in some situation, whether it's work, whether it's at church, whether it's, you're at your kids' PTO, you're always in some form of drama, right? There's always some type of conflict, even in your relationships in your neighborhood, whatever the case is, there's always some type of conflict. And that's because that mother wound is so wide open and it hasn't been healed. Okay. And then sometimes you may feel like you're a people pleaser. Okay. You may feel that you often find yourself accepting poor behavior from others. You're afraid to stand up for yourself because you don't want the conflict. You just can't handle the tension, or you run from the tension. So you do whatever you can to patch things up. You're the first to apologize, the first to admit you're wrong. Um, you have because you have the bandwidth for it, right? Your mom set the template. So maybe she was abusive in some form, right? It doesn't have to be physically, it could be verbally or whatever the case is. So you're used to it. You're used to the abuse. And so you are more accepting of it. Whereas other people may be like, this person over here is toxic and she does this, she's a manipulator and so on. You're accepting of them because you've had to make space for that type of behavior previously. And let me tell you, you don't have to check all of those boxes. All of those things do not have to apply to you. But if any of that resonated with you, it is time for us to dig in deep. Okay. You're not here by chance. You are here for a reason because it's time for you to heal. Oh, yes, God is telling you it's time for you to heal. And probably healing means He has something bigger for you. He has something better for you. He has a new direction that He wants you to go in. But we have to fix what's hurting in here and in here before we go there. Okay. So let's continue digging into it. So there are two type of moms we're going to talk about today that causes mother wounds. We're going to talk about the unavailable mom and the sheltering mom. Okay. Two types. unavailable mom and the sheltering mom. Just wanted to repeat that in case you're taking notes, right? So let's start by talking about the unavailable mom. Unavailable mom can become unavailable or be unavailable to us in one of two ways. She can be available to us in both ways as well. But the first way is physically unavailable to us, okay? And that means mom wasn't able to meet our physical needs. Food, water, shelter, those are our basic needs. And mom may have not been able to meet those needs for us. And she may not have been physically available for us, right? And that may mean because she was a drug addicted parent, right? In the 80s and 90s, crack cocaine epidemic really rocked our community. And a lot of our moms got strung out on crack cocaine. So we have a lot of adults walking around now who are still dealing with that mother wound, who are still dealing with the pain and the hurt from the abandonment and the neglect that was placed upon us by our mother, okay? Many mothers were not able to meet our physical needs because they were, incarcerated too, right? And that leaves a scar. And then there's some that may have been mentally ill. And that's something our society doesn't talk about is the children of mentally ill moms. So if that fits you, I wrote a blog article. Go to the website, go to the blog article, and tune in to that blog article about children of mentally ill moms. And some of us are moms, passed away. Okay. Many of our moms passed away early on. And of course, because of that, they weren't present for us. Okay. And so that's why many of us may have been dealing with wounds from moms that couldn't meet our physical needs. Then there is the emotionally unavailable mom, okay? And that is the mom that was present in some form but was not available. And I really want to stress that because when I talk about mom wounds and father wounds, and I talk about um, unavailable parents, many people will say to me, my mom or my dad was there. They lived in the house with me. So I had a mom or a dad. They can live in the very same house with you. You can see them every single day. That doesn't mean that that parent was emotionally available to you. Okay. And that's a huge difference. And what does that mean? A parent being emotional available for us. That means they just didn't show up for us, right? They didn't show up for us in the way that we needed. So, for example, maybe our mom didn't show up at the school picnics, the school the school play, I should say, the extracurricular events. And I know sometimes we minimize those things. Those things mean something to us. We need to accept that those things mean something to us, especially when we're children, and especially we get on that stage and we see all of those other parents there and ours is not there. That means something to us, okay? And that is where our emotions come into play because to see how do you feel? Think about it as a child, and you see your mom, you're on that stage, and you're nervous and you're about to present your talent or whatever the case is. And your mom isn't there, or you have an event, a barbecue or whatever at school, and your mom isn't there, you feel a way, right? And so we need to accept the fact that that's a real thing, and that can impact us, right? There have been so many studies that have proved that an emotionally available parent has an effect on better outcomes on children. Okay, so that's why they encourage us as moms to read to our children, to talk to them. Maybe your mom was busy working all of the time. And I get that, right? Times were tough for some of us, and so mom had to work, and so maybe she was working but she was tired. So she didn't have time to sit down and look us in our face and say, how was your day? And listen to it and listen to her feedback, right? Did you have the mom that you would start just chit-chatting about, your school day or what happened, and she just wouldn't listen to it? Or maybe she would give you a very judgmental answer. Okay. A lot of moms would give a very judgmental answer. A lot of moms had misinterpreted faith and Christianity. So they came off, if you said you had a feeling about a certain thing, they would become judgmental about it. And I'll share a story with you. My cousin, older cousin, he's a male, he's a boy, and he told my grandmother once that he was having problems. He was trying to do the right things, trying to be a Christian, and he was having problems with his having sex, like he wanted to have sex, da, 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 da. And my grandmother shut him down, and she said, if you're a Christian, then that shouldn't be a problem for you. Shouldn't be a problem for you. And so that impacted him. So that's what I mean by, I'm giving that example to show you what I mean by sometimes it was harsh, it was judgmental, and it wasn't feeling validated, right? Or maybe you said, I feel this or I feel that, and they didn't accept your feelings. Well, you should feel that way. Why do you feel that way? And so that can translate to emotionally available parents, right? And like I said, some of our parents are preoccupied with work, or maybe they worked so hard they were tired and weren't able to really hone in and nurture our feelings, nurture our emotions, build that connection with us, spend quality time with us, take us to the park. Maybe we didn't have parents that took us to the park and walked with us and just had conversations with us or sat down with us and played board games or whatever. And that impacted us. Maybe that parent was preoccupied with a spouse or a lover or whatever the case is, and that had an impact on them, right? All of those things and that unavailable parent, that unavailable mother shows up in us today. We talked about being rejection dominant, right? You're oversensitive because mom, in some part of your way, you didn't feel accepted by your mom, particularly if mom compared you to others. Little Susie, her clothes are always clean. Why aren't your clothes clean? Little Susie plays the piano well. Why don't you play the piano well? Little Susie's hair is this. All of those things. What it makes you feel in your mind, the way you may interpret this as a child is that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, so my mom is looking at little Susie. Little Susie is setting the bar. She's good enough. I'm not good enough. Okay. And that is the core of rejection. And that tears our self-esteem. Okay. That chips away at our self-worth. We don't feel valuable and we don't feel valued. Okay. It also causes us to be in fight or flight mode, okay? Whether something triggers us and we have a reaction, we're ready to fight, duke it out with our words, verbally, hash it out, or we're ready to flee. And again, it goes back to, when we haven't made peace with our mom and 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 the wounds of the past, there's a lot of resentment that can be stored inside of us. And all it takes is one little thing, something someone else may be able to walk away from. Oh, okay, it's not a big deal, right? We can't. And that's how I knew I had mother wounds, because I couldn't walk away. I couldn't walk away from a fight. I had, especially if it was with um, a woman who was a leader. I could not walk away from that fight because I was still fighting internally with my mother. Okay. So I was saying all the things to other women that were leaders or in charge of me, right? That I hadn't said to my mom. And that's why it's important. I knew I wanted to get out of the fight. I knew I wanted to get out of the fight, so I had to do what I could to heal. And now I want you, all of my sisters, to heal right along with me, okay? You have difficulty connecting and maintaining friendships with other women. And that goes back to the other things that we said, right? Um, you're in fight or flight mode, so you're easily triggered. Okay. You have a lot of resentment, and that translates with, how you react to other women. Okay. You're sensitive to rejection. It's easy for you to say, she did this to me, she doesn't like me. You do a lot of that, right? And um that really shows up in how you are viewing the world. You're viewing it out of that wounded inner child that just never felt accepted and loved by your mom. Okay. And again, I want to stress, um, this is why, if, for those of us that may be mothers, that are parents, it's so important for us to give our children hugs. We want to show love using um, all of the love languages to our children. If you've never heard of the love languages, there's a book out there, The Five Love Languages. I can't remember who wrote it. It's an excellent book, very good resource, but you want to use all of the five love languages with your children because you want them to know, without a shadow of a doubt, that they are loved and they are accepted. Because many of us knew we were loved. We saw it in action. Maybe we knew mom, she works hard, she provides food. But are you accepted by mom? Okay. Are you accepted? Were you accepted? Because if not, you'll be looking for that acceptance in other areas of your life. Sometimes we dress a certain way because we're looking for people uh, to accept us. Did you feel understood by your mother? That was the thing with me. I didn't feel understood. I just didn't feel like anyone in my family, not just my mom, just didn't feel like they understood me. I think they felt like, I was just born with this chip in my head and I was supposed to know what to do, the right thing to do at all of the right times, even when I was a child. And so when I didn't, that's what they would always say. And I'd be like, you know what to do. I'm like, "No, I didn't." So anyway, it for me, I just felt misunderstood. So I'm asking you, did you really feel understood? Did you really feel uh, accepted? And it's okay if we look back and say, mom didn't. We don't have to tell mom this, okay? But it's okay for us to have that conversation with ourselves and be honest with ourselves because that is the way in which we are really going to arrive at healing.